Okay, here we go for our first September session of Discrete Math. We can take a look at what we're supposed to be doing today. We're supposed to start practicing the midterm exam, and our goal is to make it to question 12. So the very first thing we need to do is read the instructions. So let's go to the exam page and start thinking about what we're supposed to be doing on an exam date. It's really important that everybody reads this properly. And I just saw a typo. Let's fix a typo. So that we don't have any confusions on the day of the exam. Comunicación. Okay, it looks a little better now. Because more people we have confused on the exam date, the longer it's going to take us to present the examination. So anybody who doesn't know what to do will slow everybody down. So it's an individual exam. You're not supposed to be talking to anybody. You're not supposed to be looking at the book. You're not supposed to be looking at your notes. You will not be using a calculator. You will not be using Discord. You can only use the website of the exam and Discord to talk to me. But you're not going to be using the pot. You're not going to be using Python. You're not going to be Googling anything. And most importantly, don't try to contact me in any other way. Because while I'm attending a ton of people on Discord, I cannot be checking Teams. I cannot be checking my mail. Do not try to talk to me in any other way on the day of the exam, only Discord. To start the exam, you're going to be sending me one direct message. It will contain the photo of your current student ID. If you don't have a physical student ID, you will go to SIASE and you will save the digital one. You will crop the ID itself from the screenshot and you will send me only the digital student ID. This is very important. You're also going to have with you one single sheet of paper, the usual printer size that we use here in Mexico, and you will be writing on that sheet of paper all the calculations you make, all the choices you pick in the multiple choice exam, and your student ID. If you have to take the second opportunity exam, I'm going to let you use both sides of the paper. But in midterm and final, you're going to use one single side of one single sheet of paper. So you need to learn to manage your space so that everything actually fits there. You can either use a blank sheet of paper, it's entirely fine, or you could print the format that I use when we're actually in class. It has a place to put the student ID, it has little boxes to put the options you pick, and the rest of this space is for your calculations. For the second opportunity, we have a different format because it has 40 questions. The other two exams have 20 questions. We're going to be using the online system of the exams. We're going to go there in a second because we're going to practice. You do not need an access code to practice, but on the day of the exam, when you send me your student ID, I will respond to you by sending you your PIN code. You will use that PIN code to enter the exam. And that's the only use for that PIN code. You don't use it for anything else. You can only grade the exam once you've answered all the questions. So if you don't know one, you have to guess it. You cannot send a partial exam. You have to pick something for all of the questions. And what will you do to grade? You're going to need a second different PIN code. How do you get the second different PIN code? Well, you will send me a second picture. The first time you send me a picture of your student ID. The second time you will sending me a photograph of that sheet of paper where you've written all your calculations. When I get the picture, I look at the picture, I check that it's okay, that it has your student ID, it's got all the options on it, it has the calculations, and then I give you the second PIN code and you will use the second PIN code to grade your exam. Once you grade, the system's going to create a second page of results. The result page is going to show you how many points you got, and for each question, it's going to show you what's the option you picked and whether it was right or wrong. When you're looking at this, your result has already been saved on the server, and you will not be able to go change the options anymore. When you're practicing, you can use the back button and go change and grade again. but this is not going to be the case in the real true exam that's actually worth any points. Before you leave, you will need to go to the result list. It's the same one where we put the homework stuff. So it's going to show up here under medio curso. You're going to scroll down and you're going to look at your result. You will not close your exam until you've actually seen that the result appears here correctly. When you've seen that the result appears there correctly, you're going to send me one final message saying what your result was. Before closing the page that shows the points you got, also save it as PDF. I'm going to show you today, when we're done with the practice, how I do it on a Mac. It's very similar on Windows or Linux. You're essentially printing to a PDF file. And that's going to be like a receipt for you. You don't send it to me, you keep it for yourself. So that if my computer, I don't know, explodes or I die or whatever, you will still be able to prove to the School of Engineering that you actually got those points in that exam. So 3 messages you will be sending me. When the class starts, you will be sending me the direct message of the student ID. It'll be clear and legible. It'll be cropped to the actual credential. It's going to be horizontally oriented. You're not going to send me a picture of your kitchen table with some tilted credential in the corner. It's going to be a very clear image. And I will respond to you by giving you the PIN code to enter the exam. You will be answering the exam. You will be writing down the options you choose and making your calculations on the sheet of paper. And when you're done, you send me the photo of that sheet of paper. And I will respond with the second PIN code. You will grade your exam, you will observe your result, and then you will be telling me, hey, I got 70% or I got 14 points. And I will put a reaction to say that, okay, I understand that you're done and I don't worry about you anymore. Remember to store your result in a PDF file, but do not send me the PDF file. I want only 2 pictures from you. One of them is the student ID. The second one is the photo of your calculations. So this is very important. Everybody reads this. Let's make a little poll to see if we actually understand. If you have any questions about what you're supposed to do during the day of the exam, please let me know. It's really important everybody remembers you're going to be sending me exactly 3 messages. 2 of them will be images. First the student ID, then the calculations, and then simply the result. How many points did you get? Nothing else. If you want to talk about why some question was wrong, or if you want to discuss any other thing, please don't do it the exam day. Because remember, I'm still attending to all of your classmates. I cannot talk to you about how important Boolean logic is on the exam day. We can talk about it in the following class, maybe the day after, but I cannot possibly talk to you about anything else during the exam day because I'm applying exams for like 100 people. So even though I'm excited to know how you thought the exam went, and if you have any doubts about it, I unfortunately cannot help you the same day of the exam. Often people are very excited and they want to start talking to me about all kinds of things, but they're entirely forgetting that all these other people, look at how many people we have. All these people are waiting for me to send them PIN codes and to check their photos of the calculations. And you're like, Miss, I really didn't understand the third question. And I'm going to be like, honey, you have to wait. There is no way we can do this now because all these other people are still presenting the exam. So try to remember that you're not the only person that I'm working with that day, and we can talk about it later. And please don't wait until the end of your class because I have exams the entire day. I'm going to be dealing with the exams from when I wake up until when I have dinner, and I probably won't even have time to go to the bathroom in between. So please, 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 any questions you have, ask me before. Ask me this week, next week, before the exam, and any feedback, wait until the next day. It's really important. So Edgar still needs to read the steps again. I'm linking them again. You might want to bookmark them, and if you just showed up like Rogelio, Just whenever you have time, carefully read the instructions on the website that explains the exam. So now we are in the online system that we're going to be using. You will each have 90 minutes for the exam. If you haven't graded by the end of those 90 minutes, the exam closes and it's going to be as if you didn't present the exam. Do not wait until you have 2 minutes left, because remember, I'm talking to 50 people at a time. So if you send me your photo that, Miss, I'm done, I don't necessarily get to answer to you in 15 seconds because I might be dealing with another 20 people without you. So don't try to use the whole 90 minutes. Maybe use a maximum of 70 minutes, or maybe hour and 10, hour and 15, and then send me the photo so that you will be able to get your PIN code before the exam time runs out. And I have a little timer on the exam, but it's trusting on your computer's clock to be okay. If your computer's clock is unreliable, that timer will also be unreliable. So you might want to like set a timer on your cell phone or something that from when you enter the exam, when you put the first PIN code in, you will have a maximum of 90 minutes. So when like 75 minutes have passed, so you send me the photo of the calculations, don't wait any longer. Okay. Really important to write down all of the options you're choosing, because if you accidentally lose internet, power, whatever, and you have to go back to the page, you will have to reselect the options here. So that's why you're writing them down manually so that you will never lose any progress. You will use the same student ID registered, the same email you're using for the homework. You will be presenting the midterm. And today we're practicing. On the day of the exam, you will choose present and you're going to put here the PIN code. And now I'm going to generate the exam in English. For you guys, if you click start here, it's going to give you an exam in English because you're signed up in English. I'm not signed up at all, so I'm going to switch the language manually. Please don't try to make an exam now. Let's work with my questions together. And then it would be lovely that after we're done with my questions, you would try to generate yours and you would try to answer them. And you will send me screenshots if there's any trouble, any questions you don't understand, if the system gives you an error or something. Okay, so this is the thingy that says how much time we have left, what time it is now, how many questions I have answered. This is where I would put the PIN code if this were a real exam, the grading one, the second one. And this is my button to grade. It's grayed out because I haven't answered 20 of the questions. The questions are here. If I go to this website on my mobile, which I can actually show you guys, let's pretend we're on a mobile. If you're in a mobile, when you're looking at it vertically, the only thing you see is the gray box. If you look at it horizontally, the only thing you see are the exam questions. So you need to be flipping your phone to see the two things. And why? Because the gray box is going to cover some of the questions if we have it on the same view. So that's why you can only see one or the other, okay? If when you load the exam, you see weird dollar signs in here, just do the Control 5 reload or use the developer tools to reload because it's just a JavaScript running out of place and it needs to be ran after your questions are loaded. Sometimes this freaking image takes so long to load that the JavaScript runs before the exam questions are loaded and you see dollar signs. There's never supposed to be any dollar signs. If there's dollar signs, you need to reload. It would be good to practice the exam several times using the same computer or the same phone you plan to use on the exam date, so you will know what to do if you run into any technical difficulties. It's also very hard for me to help you with technical difficulties on the exam date because I'm attending 50 people at a time. But if you have technical difficulties while you're practicing, it's really easy for me or other people to help you. Let's see if we have any questions about the system before we start answering these questions. Jair, I'm not sure what the error is. Para iniciar el examen, participante, there's missing some letters there. participante. Okay, thank you. It's been updated. Remember, anytime I make corrections on the page, you have to reload the page. It doesn't load unless you reload it. Oh, I was gonna make a poll. Okay, so in this poll, if you're confident you can test the exam system on your own later, click the green thing. If you really need to ask something about it right now before we start answering, click on the question mark. If you think you will get the hang of it, watching the video later on your own, put the confused face. If you just showed up, put the tired face. But I would really recommend everybody practice the exam at least 3 times. You can practice once today just guessing, just to get a hang on how it works. And then a couple of times actually reading and responding the questions so that the day of the exam, you're not going to be confused at all. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to send you guys screenshots of the questions so you can keep looking at them on Discord while I solve the questions on the whiteboard. So let's put this over here. And I will head on to the whiteboard. Minor adjustments to the camera. Little bit off. Weird angle. There we go. Okay, so we have an X. This X is the floor of 40 divided by 4. Okay. I'm going to make here a little table to put the results. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Okay, so this thing is here, this L and this mirrored L. What's that? That's the floor function. Función piso en español. So what does the floor function do? The floor function is a step function that takes any decimal value and rounds it down to the largest integer that's just below. So the function is going to look kind of like this. Because anything that is larger than 0 but less than 1 will be rounded to 0. Anything that's larger than 1 but less than 2 is going to be rounded to 1. Anything that's larger than 2 but less than 3, it's going to be rounded to 2. So it's going to be rounding down. It's going to make this little staircase of rounding down. So 40 divided by 4, that's a 10. So I have a floor of 10. 10 is already an integer, so when I round it down, it remains 10. If I had here, let's say a 42, I would have here a 10 point something, and 10 point something would be rounded down to 10. So when these thingies are under here, imagine it's like a floor underneath the number. It means you need to go down, okay? So the number gets rounded down. Whereas the y in our question, the y is a ceiling of 34 divided by 11. So now this is the ceiling function. In some programming languages, it's just going to be called ceil without the ing. In others, it's called ceiling. And in Spanish, we would say función techo. This is rounding up. So it's the same thing. You imagine here like a roof on top of the thing, and all the numbers go upwards. So 34 divided by 11. 33 would be the third multiple of 11. So we need to know that this is 3 point something. Because there's some extra here. There's a residue of 1. It's 3 point something. And whatever something I have here, I need to round it up. So that's going to be a 4. So what the floor does is when you have some value here and then some digits here, no matter what the digits are, you take them away. Whereas the ceiling, if you have a D and then done some digits here, as long as they're not 0, as long as these digits are not 0, you will always round up to D plus 1. So that's what's going to always be happening. Ceiling goes up if there's any decimals. Ceiling of 10 would be 10. Floor of 10 is 10 because no integer is modified neither by floor nor by ceiling. But if I have any decimal places, floor takes them away and ceiling rounds them up. So what's my question about? So now we know that x is 10 and y is 4. Let me take a picture of what we have here so I can erase it. Responding to Alejandro, it is extremely inconvenient for me if people do not take the exam the time that they're signed up for the class. Extremely. Because then I have 50 people presenting the exam when they want to. So if there's any way you can take the exam like using your cell phone, please do so. Oh, I'm getting a text message from Amazon. I have to go answer the door. I'll be back in 1 minute. Hi, boy. I would also like to remind you guys that the exam's not going to be a Thursday. Our midterm's going to be a Wednesday. So just clear the Wednesday morning. I believe it's the 22nd. It says it on the course website. We can check it later. It also says it on the faculty website. So the exam is not today and it's not a Thursday. But I do need you to take the exam during your class hours. Because if you don't take it during your class hours, I'm going to be juggling 100 people who want to do the exam whenever they feel like it. And it's going to be on top of my other classes. So I really can't do it. I really need you to take the exam during your class hours. But it's very easy to do it on a cell phone. So you don't have to be at a computer. You have one sheet of paper, something to write with, and your cell phone, and you're fine. You're entirely fine. Okay, so we were at x being 10 and y being 4, and we have several options for their relation. So we have x and a y, and they could be either equal or larger than equal, less than equal, larger or less. And I need to pick which one is the most precise one to describe the situation. Okay, we can discard some of them because x and y are not equal, so that's totally not going to be the case. X is clearly larger than y, so it can't be this one and it can't be this one. It has to be these two. Which one of these is the more precise one? This one says that x is larger than y, but it also could be equal. This one says that x is clearly larger than y. It's not equal. And since they are not equal, it's clearer to pick this one, showing that x is definitely larger than y without any possibility of equality. So that's option D. So we're going to write here that we have picked option D for the first question. And I am going to make a little poll. I'll make it on my phone so I don't have to be switching the scene to see if we are okay with this question. So let's see the poll. All of this stuff, okay, I threw my phone. All of this stuff is in the study material. And I know a lot of you aren't reading the study material. It would be really good if you were. And of course, you can just pass this class just by doing what I said in class. You don't really have to do anything else. But then in sixth semester, someone's going to put you a homework assignment. And your classmates are going to be, okay, this is easy. And you're going to be like, what the hell? I don't even understand the question. And the difference between you and your classmates will be that your classmates actually read the textbook, they actually read the study material. So they know what some concepts are, they know what some words and symbols mean, and you don't. And why don't you? Because I didn't read out loud 600 and some pages of a textbook for you. I just gave you like a quick glance of the stuff you needed to pass this class. And I urged you, I recommended you to read the textbook. But you were like, yeah, no. So that's why you're going to struggle in further semesters, because there's going to be stuff that you don't know. I cannot possibly point out every single symbol. I cannot explain every single word. You have to study. If there is a symbol or a word you don't understand after studying, you're going to put it on the Discord channel and we're going to talk about it. I can even talk about it in class. But it's impossible for me to cover all of the material because I only see you guys once a week. And supposedly, according to the study plan, there are several hours per week that you dedicate in addition to the class hours to studying this class. I've been asking students how much time do they actually spend studying, and it kind of sounds like everybody thinks this is optional, but I promise you it's not really optional. You're just going to end up sucky engineers if you never learn anything. But let's look at the poll. Angela wants to know which one's the floor and which one's the ceiling. The floor is the one that's underneath you. The ceiling is the one that's on top of you. Okay? So the floor goes under the number, the ceiling goes on top of the number. So you really have to notice those are not brackets. Brackets look different. They're also not absolute values. So you cannot just look at like random stuff around your number, because an X in brackets, a Y in floor, a Z in a ceiling, or a Q in an absolute value, these all mean different things. Every single one of these symbols means a different thing. So you really need to focus. You can zoom in on the exam, or you can just get new glasses. But I swear to you, if you look at the question, there's tiny little L thingies on top or the bottom of those lines. If they are underneath, then it's a floor. If they're above you, then it's a ceiling. Okay. Angela, you should put an MVP for Jair for making a little clarification. And we shall continue to question number 2. There is a ceiling also in question number 2. We have a ceiling of logarithm base 2 of 27. Okay, so now the ceiling means we don't need to worry about what decimals we have. We just need to determine whether or not we have decimals. And the thing we really need to understand here is the logarithm. So let's review logarithm because a lot of you didn't really pay attention. It was taught to you. So if I have an A, this A is a power to some number B, and it gives me a C. It means I'm doing an exponential function with base B, the exponent being an A, and I have obtained this value C. For example, I could have a 2 to the third power. It could give me an 8. Now, all functions usually have inverse functions. Well, not all invertible functions have inverse functions, meaning that if I take an f of an x and I obtain a y, there should be a function that's the inverse of f, and if I take that from y, I recover x. So now, what's the opposite of this thing here? If I've elevated b to a and I've obtained c, now I need to do something to c to recover a. So here it was b to the power of a is c. And here it would be which power of b is c. So b has to be here somewhere because it's a question of which power of b. I can't work it out on c alone. It depends on b and c. And this function is called the logarithm. Logarithm tells me exactly which power of the base is this number c. So the logarithm in base 2 of 8 will be 3 because 8 is the cube of 2. Taking a picture. It's extra hard to take pictures here. Okay, so since logarithm is the question of what power is this, so now I want to know which power of 2 is 27. Well, my first instinct is, okay, shit, it's not a power of 2. Let's work the powers of 2. 2 to the 0 is 1. 2 to the 1 is 2. 2 squared is 4. 2 cubed is 8. 2 to the power of 4, 16. 2 to the power of 5, 32. Okay, so 27 is somewhere between the 16 and the 32. And logarithm here, we know what these functions look like. When we're exponentiating something, it looks like this. When we're doing a logarithm of something, it looks like this. These are both strictly increasing functions. They never go down. So this means that if I take a log base 2 of 1, it'll give me a 0. If I take a log base 2 of 2, it'll give me 1. If I take a log base 2 of 4, it'll give me 2. If I take a log base 2 of 8, it'll give me 3. A log base 2 of 16 will give me 4. And a log base 2 of 32 will give me 5. So if I take a log base 2 of anything that's in between 16 and 32, it will give me 4 point something, because it has to be larger than the 4 and it has to be smaller than the 5. Because if this is the 16, it gave me a 4. This is the 32, it gave me a 5. The 27 will give me 4 point something. So I know that this number in here is 4 point something. 4 point something. And I'm taking a ceiling of 4 point something. So I'm going to get a 5. And 5 is option C. Next week, we're going to do all of this with much less writing, because now I'm explaining to you guys how this is done. Next week, we're simply going to do it. So it's going to be much briefer. And when you do it in the exam, you can do it the brief way. You don't have to explain. You will simply show me how you obtained the result. Sending pictures. And making a poll. I can hear my cats fighting. Maybe I need to go tell them not to. Oh yeah, cat fight. Definitely cat fight. Hey, guys, no fighting. Waha. Yeah, you're coming. You're coming. There's no fighting. You can go up. Put the other foot. Thank you. Thank you. Don't fall. Okay. If you need more examples of logarithms, please click on the question mark and I can make a few more examples. It's a really simple thing. It's an extremely simple thing. But for some reason, somebody somewhere in high school managed to make you guys think it's complicated, and now you think you can't do it. Like you can happily raise numbers to powers, but then when you need to do it the other way around, you're like, oh my God, I can't do this. Of course you can, but it might take a little bit of a practice to get used to how to do it. It's extremely simple. It's just as simple as raising to a power. You're just doing it the other way around. Okay, nobody wants more examples. Let me start erasing this. We're of course going to do more examples this afternoon when I do all of this in Spanish with different questions. And next week, we're also going to do it again with the different numbers because I'm going to regenerate a different exam. So now you should never ever have an excuse to use a calculator to get a logarithm again. You're just going to think about the powers. You're going to find the closest ones and you can estimate the decimals. Okay, so 2 was C. Now we are in question 3. I have a cattail on my face. 30 mod 9. So what we're reading here is, what is the residue when I divide 30 by 9? So this is the one that divides. So this is going to go to the bottom. This is going to go to the top. And this question is simply, what's the residue? So I'm going to take 30 divided by 9. I don't care how many times it fits. I care how much do I have leftovers. So we could take the 9 out of 30 repeatedly, just to make a point. So 30 minus 9, I would get a 21. So it fit once, lovely. Let's take it out of there a second time. If I take a 9 out of a 21, I believe I get a 12. Then if I take a 9 out of a 12, I get a 3. And I can no longer fit a 9 in the 3. So now this is the residue because I couldn't fit the 9 there anymore. So the result is here a 3. So what's the leftovers when I divide 30 by 9? That's the question. And the residue 3 corresponds to option D. Option D. Taking a picture. Well, let's try to take the pictures from the wrong side, mostly because there is a cat ass on my face here. And another pole. So this is also a very simple thing. I'm just making sure that all of you people know all of these very simple things, because it's really embarrassing if in future semesters your teachers try to teach you something wonderful about engineering and you're like, I don't know what that symbol means. So we're just trying to cover our bases here. This course is kind of like teaching you the language of math so that you can actually understand equations. And now one would ask, why do we need equations? Why can't we just explain things? When you just explain things, it's really difficult to translate from one language to another, and there are imprecisions, and then there are all kinds of mistakes. Like, let's say that your client is in Russia and your provider is in China, and your provider needs to be explained what kind of components or materials you need so that you can put together a product that you're going to sell to the Russians, and the Russians are sending you the specifications of what they need the product to be. It's much better to use formal language like equations, program code, diagrams to describe what's going on. If you describe this in like spoken word, it's imprecise and it's difficult to know if you're meaning the same thing because you're translating back and forth. So that's why it's really important to actually dominate the language of math, and that's what we're trying to practice here. Okay, so question 4. In question 4, we are in the base conversions that we love and adore. We have 5, 2 to 5, and it's a base 6 number. And we want to know, what does this look like in base 10? So decimal representation means base 10. So now remember, to go from a weird base to base 10, I just need to know how many times each power of 6 will be present. So this means 5 times 6 to the 0. This is 2 times 6 to the 1. This is 2 times 6 squared and 5 times 6 cubed. Okay, so this is just a 5 because this here is a 1. This is just a 12 because it's 2 times 6. This is a 2 times 36, which sounds a lot like 72. And this here is 5 times something I don't really even want to think about. It's 5 times 6 times 36. So let's do the 5 times 6 first because it's kind of easier. 5 times 6 sounds like a 30, so I have 30 times 36. 10 times 36 is pretty easy. So this is 3 times 360. The 3 times 300, that's going to give me a 900. And the 3 times 60 is going to give me 180. So I'm looking at 1,080. And then I need to sum all of this stuff up together. Let's take the 12 and the 72. So if I take these two here, I'm going to get an 84. Let's take the 5 and add it to the 84. I have an 89. So I need to take an 89 and add it here. I get a 9 and a 6 and a 1 and a 1. And now it doesn't even matter if I made a little mistake because this is a multiple choice exam. So I'm just going to pick whatever is the closest of the options. If I made a little mistake multiplying or summing something, it shouldn't matter. In this case, there actually is a 1169. It's option A. And none of the others are anywhere near. They're like way too small because as soon as I knew that this one was over 1,000, I could already discard options B, C, and D because they're way too small. And as soon as I saw these numbers here, I know that there's no way that this stuff is going to sum up to more than 2,000. So I could just reason and eliminate the impossible options. So we now know that 4 is option A. And this is something I need you guys to practice. The how to efficiently calculate without a calculator these kinds of computations. You're not supposed to need to do complicated stuff to estimate what a number means. Just practice multiplying and adding together tons of numbers. This needs to come like from your spine. This needs to be an instinct. It shouldn't be something that's complicated to do. To know what's 6 to the cube and what happens if you multiply it by 5 and then you need to sum some numbers to it. This should be really easy to do with practice. And you don't need to use some specific method. You can barely see a method here. I'm just doing tiny little calculations to try to keep it simple. And then I'm like summing up the results of my calculations. The important thing you need to remember is this part here. The digits correspond to the powers. And this is the multiple of the power. 5 times 6 to the 0. 2 times 6 to the 1. 2 times 6 to the 2. 5 times 6 to the 3. That's how you read it, and then you just sum up the numbers, and you should be fine. Entirely and utterly fine. Let's make another poll. So any base that's smaller than 10, it's this exact same procedure. Just don't sum up powers of 6. Look at what base you have and use that base, and you should be entirely and utterly fine. Okay. How's this looking? This is looking fine. 13 people understand what's going on. So now I need to scroll down in the exam and send you guys another screenshot because we have cleared the first 4 questions that were in the first screenshot. So let's take another screenshot for the next 4 questions. And remember, everybody, our goal is only to get to question 12. We're not going to try to do the whole thing today. We're going to try to do the whole thing next week because we're going to do this beginning part much faster. And we're going to be concentrating on the latter half. So we are now making a decimal representation for a larger base. So now brain hurts a little because we have to do multiplications of a very large number. I have an F3F base 23. Now I'm not very happy with the 23, but we will survive. So remember, when we're looking at letters here, it means that those are digits that are larger than 9. A means 10. B means 11, and this red marker is unacceptable. Let's try another one. B means 11, C means 12, D is a 13, E is a 14, so F is a 15. So these are again powers 0, 1, 2. So I have F times 23 to the 0, 3 times 23 to the 1, and F, let's write it as F first because it's more consistent, F times 23 squared. So this is 15 times 1, which is a 15. This is 3 times 23, which looks a lot like 69. And this is 15 times 23 times 23. Okay, so this part is easy. Here I have a 84. Here I have some kind of an unpleasant cluster, and we are going to try to estimate this number here to try to save time and money here. So we have 5,000 something, 6,000 something, 8,000 something, 12,000 something, and 15,000 something as options. Okay, so here I have, let's estimate here first. This is almost the same as 15 times 20 times 20. And that's much faster to calculate because 20 times 20, that should be a 400, right? So if I take 15 times a 400, I should get a 4,000 from the 10 times and then a 2,000 from the 5 times. So this is a 6,000 here. So this number is larger than 6,000. So of the options we have, we can discard the 5,000 one. It can't be the 5,000 one. And also, this number can't be a lot larger than 6,000. We could now try to make fixes to it to see how much larger it's actually going to be. So now, if instead of having the 20 times 20, I could have 20 times 23. What on earth is this? This is a 20 times a 20 and another 3 times 20. So it's going to be the 400 and a 60. Okay, so now if I want to take the 460 and multiply that by the 15, so 460 by 15, by 10 times I get the 4,600, add the 5, that's the half of it. So I'm at 6,900 when I sum these two. So it sounds like I'm above the 6855, but I'm not a lot above it. I actually shouldn't be above it at all. I'm doing something weird here. 460, 10 times, plus 5 times. This is the 10 times. This is the half of it. This is 5 times. Pretty sure it can't be the 15,000. Pretty sure it can't be the 12,000. So now if I had to guess, if I were in a hurry, I could guess the 6,855 or the 8,019. So that's how we would estimate. So now let's actually make the calculation. It's not horribly difficult, but it's a little more work when we're doing it in our heads. So I'm going to do first 15 times the 23 as a 10 times 23 plus 5 times 23. So I have a 2,030, and then 5 times that is half of it. So I have 150, no, 115. 115 is the half of this. So I have 345 here. Then I have the 345, and I need to multiply it by 23. So let's just multiply it by 10. So 300 and, okay, this would be multiplied by 10. So then I need another 10. If I sum 10 times and 10 times, I have the 20 times. Then I need to add it the 3 times. So let's do this sum first. I have a 0 here, I have a 0 here, I have a 9 here. 6900. Why do I keep getting the 69 when it's none of the options? Horribly confusing. And then I need to add the 3 times to it. The 3 times to it is going to give me like 1,000. I think we're going to get to the 8,000 because we're already almost at 7,000. So I take 3 times this number, 4, 5, 3, 4, 5. So I have a 15 there. Then I have a 13 there. So then I have 1,035. So I have the 6900 and I have the 1035 plus the 84 that we had before. So I have a 9 here. So it looks like 8019, which is exactly option B. Okay, 5 will be B. And believe me, I'm not really happy either. And somebody's like, what's 15 times 23 times 23? I'm like, oh God, give me like a piece of paper or something. But I usually go by splitting it to multiples of 10, multiples of 5, making little additions. If you're really good at multiplying in your head, go ahead, multiply in your head. But just write me the little partial multiplications so I know that you did these steps. I know you got the digits. I know you got the values of the digit and you sum them up together and you will be fine. But nobody will use a calculator in the exam. Absolutely nobody at all. Not a physical one, not the computer, nothing. We will all do these things in our little tiny heads with tiny little pieces of paper. And just practice as many times as you want. You can generate 100 exams if you want to, and then only solve the questions that were giving you trouble, and you can guess all the others. That way you can grade as many times as you want. Let's make a little poll. I am okay with converting larger bases to base 10. While you guys respond, I'm copying the next question. The next ones are going to be really easy. 2 1s and 4 zeros. Looking at the poll, we have one question. Let's look at the question. Let's see, who has the question? Khair, let's have the question. Okay, let's try yours. So we have a 074 base 13. So let's convert this. We have a 4 times 1 and a 7 times 13. So I have a 4 here, and I have a 70 and a 21 here. So these guys give me a 91. The correct option is 95. 95 is option E. You're doing something wrong in your calculations. 95 is option E on the screenshot you just gave. This 4 and this 91. Remember, this is the power 0, this is the power 1. And the power 2 is a 0, so it doesn't count. 4 times 1, 1 times 13, no times 13 squared. I can swear to you that 99% of the cases when the correct option is not shown, it's actually not the correct option. But it's really easy to make these mistakes when you're starting out. Okay, so in the next question, we need to do an octal representation. The only thing I'm checking here is if you remember that octal means 8, and if you understand that 8 is the cube of 2. Why is it relevant that 8 is the cube of 2? Because a binary number is a base 2 representation. So these three here, they will tell me how many 8s are there. These will tell me how many 8s are there. Every triplet will be how many 8s are there. Every pair would be how many 4s. And every quadruple would be how many 16s. So what does this mean? If I have a 111 power 2, base 2, this one's a 7 base 8, because this is literally a 7. So if I have here 111, it's 7 ones, and the ones are 8 to the 0. And if I have a 101, that's going to be a 5 to base 8. All numbers that are binary that are less or equal to 7, they look just like the decimal ones. So this is really easy to make these calculations. Each triplet will correspond to a multiple of a power of 8. So this means 0 times 8 to the 0. This means 4 plus 2, no 1. 6 times 8 to the 1. So this is a 60 power 8. All I need to do is take triplets of the bits and convert those to octal. I don't have to convert the whole thing, just the triplets. So 60 is option C. Cat on my face. So when you're doing octal, you take triplets of bits, you independently interpret them. 0, 0, 0, it's always going to be a 0. 0, 0, 1 is going to be a 1. 0, 1, 0 is going to be a 2. 0, 1, 1 is going to be a 3. 1, 0, 0 is going to be a 4. 1, 0, 1 is going to be a 5. 1, 1, 0 is going to be a 6. 1, 1, 1 is going to be a 7. Don't memorize this, but it might be helpful if you're very nervous in an exam to write this table down in some corner of the exam. So then when you have to do octal conversions, you just look at the triplets and you consult your table. But don't memorize it. Those are just the binary numbers from 0 to 7, and those are really easy to recalculate. Let me get you guys a picture of what's going on here. And I would recommend to try to practice this many times as well. You almost never have to write anything. I can just look at this octal number. All I have to do is imagine the divisions between the triplets, and I already know what the answer is going to be. The important thing is to remember to make the triplets from right to left. You have to start here. Like if I had here a different length of bits, the full triplets have to come from right to left. If you part it the other way around, you will mess it up. Because these are the powers of 2 that are the 0, 1, 2 that are the ones that are included in the 8. If you do it from left to right, you mess it up entirely. So none of this is memorizing. All of this is understanding. Because if you're doing it because you remember it, you're going to do it wrong. You're going to remember it wrong and you're going to do it the opposite way around. But if you're doing it because you understand what you're doing, there's absolutely no chance of making a mistake. So Zig0 was C for question 6. And now we do the same trick twice. We want to take an octal, that's a 3, 7 octal. And we want to make it base 16. 8 and 16 are both powers of 2. The hexadecimal corresponds to base 16, which is 2 to the 4th. So the easiest thing to do here is to go through the binary representation, because I know each one of these digits is going to give me a triplet. The 7 is going to give me a 111. The 3 is going to give me a 011. So I can make it a binary really quickly with no calculations, just using the same table here. Now, let's think about a longer version of this table. that goes all the way to 15. So the next one would be 1, 0, 0. It's going to be 8, 1, 0, 0, 1. Why do I always pick these freaking reds that don't show? That's going to be a 9. 1, 0, 1, 0 is going to be a 10. 1, 0, 1, 1 is going to be an 11. 1, 1, 0, 0 is going to be a 12. 1, 1, 0, 1 is going to be a 13. 1, 1, 1, 0 is going to be a 14. And 1, 1, 1, 1 is going to be a 15. So now if I want to make this base 16, I need quadruplets of bits. So I just take the first 4 bits. They're going to be my first digit. Then I put zeros in front so I can complete my second digit. And then I look at the table for the base 16. 1, 1, 1, 1 is a 15. Remember that 10 is A, 11 is B, 12 is C, 13 D, 14 E, and 15 F. So this digit is an F. 0, 0, 0, 1 is a 1. So it's 1F in base 16. And I barely have to calculate to know that it's 1F. 1F is option E for question 7. Taking a picture. Rogelio, you can use any method you want as long as you understand it. The residue method that a lot of you use, also a lot of you misunderstand. And when you've misunderstood it, the problem is that you end up writing your bits the wrong way around. You end up writing them the opposite order than they're supposed to be. And if you write them in the opposite order because you didn't understand your method, then you're going to have the wrong answer and you're going to be in trouble. You're not going to get partial credit for having misunderstood a method. So at your own risk, at your own understanding of what you're doing, you're free to do the calculations whichever way you want. I just need to see your calculations. And if you misunderstood the method and put the bits the wrong way, there's no points. I'm only interested in you understanding what you're doing. I'm not at all interested in forcing a specific method on you. Let's make another poll. So if somebody is trying to teach you a method, never pretend you understand. Never ever pretend you understand. Keep asking them until you actually understand why it works, what it's doing. If it looks like dark magic, that it's just spitting out numbers that you don't understand how they're related to what you're doing, don't use it. Use a method you understand. Because when you don't understand, you easily make mistakes by inverting steps or misinterpreting what you're doing. Okay, I will be erasing this part. These are my favorite questions in the midterm, the converting the octals to hexadecimals, because for people who actually know what they're doing, they take like 2 seconds to solve. For people who never studied anything, they have no clue. They're literally guessing. There is no way for them to know what they're doing. And that's the kind of questions that I like. I really enjoy it when you can easily apply your knowledge to distinguish yourself from people who don't know what's going on. And when you do realize that you can do something that other people can't do, it's also a wonderful thing to take a few minutes to explain to them. So if you see on Discord a classmate who's struggling with these 2 questions, offer help. I'll explain it to you. Because the more times you explain it, the better you understand it. And the better you understand it, the more difficult it becomes for you to forget it. Okay, we are looking at question 8. We have 166, sorry. 116, and it's in base 10. And we wish to take it to another base. We want to take it to base 18. So now we have to do this the other way around. We need to see which powers of 18 and how many of them do I need to sum up 166. Okay, so first let's figure out the powers of 18. 18 to the 0 is 1. 18 to 1 is an 18. Then we get to the unhappy part of 18 squared. 18 squared. Okay. Let's suppose I take 18 and I multiply it by 10, I get 180. So if I take an 18 and I multiply it by 20, I'm going to get 180 plus another 180, which gives me a 360. Okay, so now if I take the 360, it's larger than 18 times 18 because there's too many 18s there. So from the 360, if I take away an 18, okay, I take away an 18, I get a 2 here. I believe I get a 4 here. So I took away 118. So now it's 19 times 18. And I want it to be 18 times 18. Let's take another 18 out of there. So I take from 12 and 8, I get a 4. Kind of looks like 324. So now we would suppose that this would be 324. But it doesn't really matter what the value is because it's clearly much larger than 166. So this digit's not going to be there. This digit simply will not exist. Nope, doesn't fit. So the first one that actually fits is the 18. And now, how many times is it going to fit? There is no way it's going to fit 10 times. If it fits 10 times, that's 180. And this is smaller than 180. So 10 times is impossible. Let's see if it fits 9 times by taking out an 18. Okay, I borrow from here. I get a 2, I get a 662. Lovely. 162 is already smaller than this number. So I know it fits 9 times. So I know I have 9 times 18 plus something. What's the plus something? It's what I have to cover. So 166, if I take out the 162, I get a 4. In that 4, the 1's going to fit 4 times. So this one fits 9 times, and after that, this one fits 4 times. So I should have a 9, 4 base 18. And this one fits 0 times. I can put it in front if I want to. It doesn't have any effect on the numerical value. So what do I have? I have a 9, 4, and that's option A. Option A for question 8. Taking a picture. So basically, I wouldn't even have to calculate the exact value for the 18 squared. I could have just observed that since the 360 was way larger than the 166, I could have just called it there and say, no, this one's not going to fit at all. Or I could have observed that since this digit can be up to 17, so if this thing looks smaller than 17 times 18, then this digit will never be used. So there's a lot of ways to reason to save work, but the only thing you need to do is first figure out what's the largest power that fits, how many times does it fit, and then the next one. And the method that Rogelio mentioned, it's still very valid. You can use it here as well. You just need to know what you're doing, because if you don't know what you're doing, you're going to end up thinking it's 49 or 490 or some other stupidity because you're putting the digits in the wrong order because you don't actually understand what you're doing. Another poll to check if we can actually convert from base 10 to other bases. And I need to get the last screenshot of the day of the following 12 questions from 9 to 12. And that's going to get us to our goal for the day. Then we're just going to guess the rest of the answers so we can grade. A couple of people still need more time. But all of this is pretty easy. You just need to practice. You need to practice a lot because it just needs to become kind of like automatic that you recognize what you're supposed to be doing. And then you just carry out the steps the same way that you know what 1243 means. You will know what bases different from 10 also mean, the same instinctive way. That, hey, these are the thousands, these are the hundreds. You're going to be like, hey, these are the 36s, these are the sixes. And it's all going to make wonderful sense when you get used to it. But nothing I can say will make you get used to it. It's only by practice. Okay, question 9. We are getting the greatest common divisor between 134 and, what's that, 49, I think. We're going to use an algorithm for this. The algorithm has two versions. We could use a residue version or a subtracting version. The subtracting version, the only thing it's going to do is it's going to do more steps, but it's going to include the residue version. So let's do this week the subtraction version, and then maybe next week the residue version, which is shorter. So in this algorithm, you're going to take the larger number and the smaller number, and you're going to put them in the columns A and B. You're going to make a third column that's going to be A modulo B. And today it's simply going to be the larger, we are going to subtract the smaller. Because if we keep subtracting the smaller from the larger, we're eventually going to get to the residue. So this is the version we're doing today. This is the version that we're actually going to arrive at later on. So I have 134 and a 49. We're going to take the 49 away from the 134. 134, I have a 49. Okay, from 14, I'm taking a 9. I keep a 5. Then from 12, I'm taking a 4. It looks like an 85. So I put an 85 here. So now I am going to take the 49 away from the 85. So with this version of the algorithm that we're doing, the larger minus smaller, I need to take the larger of these two numbers and put it into A. And the smaller of these two numbers is going to be in B. And then I'm going to subtract again. So I'm going to subtract the smaller from the larger. Okay, from 15, I'm taking a 9, so I'm keeping a 6. Then from 7, I'm taking a 4, keeping a 3. So I have a 3, 6 here. The larger goes in A. The smaller goes here. So now, actually, this 36 was the residue of this original division. So I could have gone straight to this one by moving B here and taking here the residue. That would have been the 36 in this step and moving it here. So this step was kind of optional. It was just because I didn't want to do the modulo in my head. So I was doing the subtractions until I reached the residue. But this is entirely valid too. You always put the larger in A and smaller in B. If you're doing this one, you're always going to be moving B in A and the modulo in B if you're doing the residue. In this one, you have to remember to reorder them. Okay, so now I'm taking a 36 out of a 49. I have a 49, I have a 36. Let's take it out. I get a 13. Okay, larger goes in A, smaller goes in B. Okay, now on the 36, I'm taking away a 13. I'm getting a 23. The larger goes in A, the smaller goes in B. Out of 23, I'm taking a 13. I'm going to get a 10. Larger goes in A, smaller goes in B. From 13, I'm going to take a 10. I'm going to get a 3. Then 3 goes here. 10 goes, the larger goes here, smaller goes here. From 10, I'm going to take a 3. I'm going to get a 7. I ran out of the table. Let's continue here. From 7, I take a 3. I am going to get a 4. From 4, I take a 3. I am going to get a 1. And as soon as I reach a 1 here, I actually know that I'm done. Technically, I have to repeat until I get a 0. And the last thing above the 0 is going to be the result. So let's do the whole table for the larger than version. So 3 and 1 is going to give me a 2. 2 and 1 is going to give me a 1. 1 and 1 is going to give me a 0. And the value above the 0 is the result. I'm going to write the table, now that we know all the calculations. I'm going to write the one that uses the residue directly, so that we have two tables. This one's going to be the larger minus the smaller. This one's also going to be always the larger, and this one's going to be always the smaller. And in the other table, we would have the A, B, and A mod B. So when I have the 134 and the 49, I keep subtracting the 49 until it doesn't fit anymore. So the residue is a 36. Then the 49 goes here, the 36 goes here, and I will subtract the 36 until it doesn't fit anymore. I get a 13. I move the 36 here. I move the 13 here. And then I will take the 13 out until it doesn't fit anymore. I will get a 10. Then I put the 13 here and the 10 here. I will take the 10 out until it doesn't fit anymore. I will get a 3. Then I have a 10 and I have a 3. I will take the 3 out until it doesn't fit anymore. I get a 1. 10 minus 9 is going to be a 1. And then I have the 3 here and the 1 here, and nothing's going to be left over because when I divide by 3, there's no leftover. So the answer is going to be the 1. Okay, I'm a little bad here because my table didn't fit. Let's try to make it a little bit clearer for the photo. So this is the continuation, max, min, and this is the max minus the min. So you can do either of the two ways, either subtracting or taking the residue. You will visit the same values both ways, but you just kind of go faster if you're using the residue version. Let me take pictures of all of this. So I personally prefer the residue version, but if you're really bad at calculating residues in your head, it's safer to do the other one, because most people in primary school kind of got pretty good at subtracting numbers. I'm sending pictures of both. And in this one, I would really appreciate it if you could use one of these two algorithms. You can also look at the numbers and try to reason like they're multipliers. So like if one of the numbers is a prime number and the other one isn't like a multiple of it, well, then you already know it's going to be 1. But this is a very handy algorithm, but I don't care which version you pick. If you reason it out, please write in some way the reasoning you did. Like how did you factor the numbers and how did you figure out what's the greatest common divisor? I'm also going to, oh, great. I tried to type, it's supposed to say GZD, but it just decided GVG because I typed GVG a lot more in Discord. GCD. And I'll link you an example to it that's much easier to read than the stuff I write on the whiteboard. And I'm also going to link you guys the video tutorial for the midterm exam that has step-by-step solutions of the problems here, of course with different data because it's an auto-generated exam, where I write the steps. It's not talking, it's just writing. So you can go through over it in like whatever speed you need. But this, once you figure out the algorithm, this is pretty fast and comfortable. So now option 1 was 9A. 9A. Erasing this since you guys already have the picture. Another reason I prefer the residue method is because since it's much shorter, it's easier to fit it in the answer sheet. But you can also work with writing small numbers and managing a compact representation on your sheet of paper so you can fit the other one in too. So that was 9A, and now we're in Boolean logic. This is very similar to a homework we had. So I have a not. A implies B, and C, parenthesis, or D. Okay. So the first thing we need to understand here is what's implies, because it wasn't in the homework, so most of you people have skipped it. A implies B means exactly the same thing as not A or B. So if it rains, I'm bringing an umbrella. What does it mean? It means that it's either not raining or I have an umbrella. Because if it were raining, I would be forced to have the umbrella because I promised that if it rains, I'm bringing the umbrella. So just imagine here, this is the rain, this is the umbrella. It means the same thing. So whenever you see implication, just think not A or B. So now what's its truth table going to look like? If I have A and B, A could be false or true, B could be false or true. I need the table for not A. Not A is the opposite of A. So not A or B, what's it going to be? Not A or B, true. Not A or B, true. Not A or B, false. Not A or B, true. So the only false you can create in an implication would be if it were raining and I didn't have the umbrella, then my promise would be a lie. Taking a picture of the truth table. So you have two options here. Either you understand what the implication means, or you simply accept that it means the same thing as not A or B, and you always think about not A or B when you're solving it. So we're going to make the tree representation for this. I have an A and I have a B. They will be in an implication together. That thing will be negated before entering an AND with the C. Okay, so this is negated first, then there's an AND. Then that will be negated before entering an OR with the D. Okay. So now, if we stop to think, there are some wonderful things here. The question is, which of the following assignments satisfies this? Since there's an OR underneath here, if D is true, this expression will always be satisfied. So we can save time by looking, is D ever true? D is true in options A, C, and D. So any of them would work. I don't even have to do anything. You would just write in your calculations, since there's a D in the OR, if D is true, the expression is true, and we're done. So we could save time, but I'm going to show you how to actually evaluate this in case you get a situation that you can't simplify like this. Let's pick the option D, 10D, and let's evaluate it for 10D. Now, notice that in this question, out of the 5 options, at least 3 of them are true. Actually, let's use the E. Let's evaluate the E to see if actually 4 of them will be true. So I'm going to evaluate the option E. In the option E, A is false. The bottom thing means false, the top thing means true. So A is going to be false in the assignment E. Let's write here that it's the E. A is false, B is true. C, also true. And D, false. So here I have 0 implies 1. 0 implies 1, it's going to be a 1. That 1 gets negated into a 0. An AND between a 0 and a 1 produces a 0. That gets negated into a 1. An OR between a 1 and a 0 is 1. So in this particular question, if you pick A, C, D, or E, they're all correct. Every single one of them. The only option that wouldn't be correct would be B, none. Because you can't say that none of them satisfy it if actually all of them satisfy it. But it could also be that in your exam, it would only give you assignments that don't satisfy it. If you checked all 4 and you never get a true at the end, it means that you need to pick the option none. Okay, let me take a picture and let's make a poll of whether we have this under control. There's cat paws in many of these pictures today. Are you going to stay here the whole class, Fran? She's asleep. She's going to stay here. Let's make a poll. Rogelio is writing. Here, the only thing we really need to remember is assignment satisfies means the expression will have value true. So we're just interested in whether or not putting those zeros and ones into the variables will make the expression be worth 1. If it's worth 0, it's not satisfied. Okay? So none of the assignments satisfy mean no matter which one of those options you plug in, it's always going to spit out a 0. Let's look at Rogelio's question. Yeah, like in my exam now, Rogelio, any of the 4 options will be correct. I could pick A, C, D, or E. Every single one of them will give me a point. The only way for me to lose a point in question 10 would be picking B, because B is incorrect. All the other ones are correct. So this is really easy for you guys, because even if you're guessing, you have a high chance of actually getting something right, because there's so many correct options in some of these questions. Okay, the next one, it's a little bit harder because it doesn't have the parentheses anymore. I have an A, and then I have a double implication. It's called an equivalence with B. Then I have a regular implication with C. Then I have an AND with AD. And then I really need to read the rest of the question because it tells me with precedence from highest to lowest, I need to do first the equivalence, then the implication, and then the AND. So what does this mean? This means place the parentheses in this order. First, I need to put parentheses for the equivalence. So that's going to tie first. Then the implication. So now this thing implies this thing. So they will get the second set of parentheses. And only after everything else has been done, we're going to do the AND D. So what does it look like in a drawing? I have an A and a B. They will together enter the equivalence. The result of that will enter the implication with the C, and the result of that will enter the AND with the D. So now what's an equivalence? A equivalent B means A implies B at the same time, or let's an AND, as B implies A. What does a truth table look like? It looks exactly like you think equivalence would look like. If A and B both have the same value, if both are false, the equivalence is true. If both are true, the equivalence is true. If they have different values, the equivalence is false. So this is the opposite of the XOR. The exclusive OR wants one of them to be on and the other one to be off. The equivalence wants both on or both off. Okay? So now we can actually evaluate this thing here. And now notice I have an AND with a D. So again, I can save time here because that AND will never be satisfied if D isn't true. So we can discard all the options where D isn't true. So 11A is impossible. D is false, that'll never satisfy. 11D is also impossible because D is false, it'll never satisfy. So let's try with the assignment B first. In assignment B, I have A true, B true, A2 true, true, C is false, and D is true. Okay, so let's try this one. 1 is equivalent to 1, so I get a 1 here. It rains, but I'm not carrying my umbrella, so this one's a false. So I have an AND with a 0 and a 1. B doesn't satisfy it. Changing colors to try the other option we had. The other one where D is true is option E. Let's try option E. In option E, A is false, B is true, C is false, and D is true. So this equivalence is no longer valid. So now it isn't raining and I'm not carrying the umbrella. So now everything's fine here. So now I have a 1 and a 1. So it's actually going to spit out a 1. So option E works out for us. So now in this question 11, with this random data, I only have one correct option, and that's assignment E. All of the other options would be wrong. Taking another picture, trying to have less cattail in it. And making a poll. So the only trick in this question is understanding that precedence means which of the operators ties first, like where do the parentheses go first? The same way as if I give you an expression like A times B plus C times D, you know that times has a higher precedence. So you know you have to do this one and this one before you can do this one. It's the same thing here. You put the high precedence parenthesis first, and then the lower and the lower and the lower until you get to the one that's the lowest precedence, and you don't really need parentheses there. You could put them too, it doesn't matter if you add them, but it just doesn't change anything anymore because it's the last thing to be evaluated. So we only have one question left in today's agenda, then guessing the remaining and grading. We have 10 minutes left, but since it's a practice exam, it isn't such a big deal. So I have a 31 in an OR with a 10 shifted by 3 positions. That thing is in a XOR with a 38, which is in an AND with a 25 shifted by 1 position. So this is very much like a homework, so we should be able to do this within 10 minutes. I need to put things in binary. 31, it's right under 32. So it's going to be a 1 plus a 2 plus a 4 plus an 8 plus a 16. That's a 31. This one's a 10. And I'm taking away 3 bits. I'm taking away those 3 bits. So I'm making an OR. And this one only has 1, 1. All the others are zeros. And I'm taking an OR. OR is always going to be satisfied when there's at least 1, 1. So 31 OR with anything that has less bits than 31, that's just going to be a 31. So we know that all of this half here, it's just a 31, which is 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. On the other side, I have a 38. That's a 32 plus 16 doesn't fit, 8 doesn't fit, 4 and 2 fit, 1 doesn't fit. So this is 2 plus 4 is 6, 6 plus 32 is 38. Okay, then I have a 25. 25 is a 16 plus an 8. The 4 and the 2 don't fit, but the 1 fits. Because 16 plus 8 is a 24. Then I add a 1, I get a 25. So I need to take this thing and I'm adding it a new bit in the end. That's what this does. This adds a new 0 in the end. So now I need to take this and this number to do the AND. So I have 1, 1, 0, 0, 1, 0. I'm doing an AND. AND requires that both bits are 1. So I get a 0, 1, 0, 0, 0, 1. Okay, so the last thing I need to do is XOR between this number and this number. So I have a 0, 1, 1, Oh, 0, 1, 0, 0, 1, 0. That's this one here. This one is a little shorter, so let's put a 0 in the front. Zeros in the front don't change the value. 0, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. Making a XOR. XOR wants the bits to be opposed, so it doesn't want both of them to be true. So this one goes through, this one cancels, goes, 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 goes. So what number am I looking at here? If I would be running out of time, I could discard all even numbers because this is not an even number. This is also clearly not a 0. So we are looking at either 27 or 61. Those are the only two options that aren't even. So this one's the 1, 2, 4, 8, 16, and a 32. So it's a 32 plus all of this other stuff here, the 16 and an 8 and the 4 and the 1. So it's definitely going to be the option 61, because this is way larger than 27, because the 32 alone is larger than 27. So this one's definitely going to be a 61. I could just sum it here. I have a 20 here. I have a 10 here, so that's a 30. 20 plus 30. Actually, I probably have a mistake. No, but I don't have the 2. Sorry, I don't have the 2. I don't have the 2 because that's a 0. So I have a 20 plus a 9. I have a 32 plus a 29. That is going to be exactly the 61. So 61 is option B. 61 is option B. So in question 11, we had A. In question 12, we have B. I'm going to take you guys a picture. So this one is really, really, really similar to the homework we already had. So you can either watch the video of the homework or you can watch the exam video to deal with this because it's nearly the same thing. Okay, so now I just need to guess the rest of the questions. I have answered 12. I'm going to put A in all of the others. If it were the exam, I would have to now send a picture to the professor to get the pin code. I would write it here before I press the button. But since it's just practice, I just press the button. And it shows me the results. So we were correct in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We were correct in everything we actually did today. The rest were guesses. We guessed 2 of them correct and everything else was wrong. Now, to save this in PDF, I would go to printing options of my operating system. I would save as PDF. I would give it some kind of a name. Let's put this M4 PDF. So now I have a PDF file. That's the receipt of what I actually did today. Uploading it to you guys. And remember, in the exam, you don't need to send me the PDF. The PDF is for you in case anything happens to me before you get your final result in SIASE, so that you can prove that you actually got some points in the exam. It's really important that in all classes that you're taking, whenever someone gives you points for anything, whether it's exam or homework, take a screenshot or something so that you can prove you actually had those points in case anything happens. Just imagine Microsoft Teams goes down when we're supposed to be grading you guys. If you don't have any proof of anything you've done, your teachers might not have backups. Not everybody takes backups as regularly as I do. So try to be very conscious of that. So let's make 2 polls here. So the last question was the integer arithmetic, where we're actually doing like Boolean operations with integers. The ORs and the ANDs and the XORs and the shifting to the left and shifting to the right. When I shift to the left, I'm adding zeros at the end. When I shift to the right, I'm discarding the lowest bits. The OR It just wants either one of the bits to be 1 to be okay. The AND requires both of them to be 1, and the XOR wants them to be opposite, 1, 0 and 1, 1, but it doesn't care which one is which. So what I would like you guys to be doing this week is go to the exam site, enter with your student ID and your homework, and then when you've done the exam and you're looking at the exam result here, take a screenshot. Skip the part where it says your student ID. Just get me a screenshot of this part here to see that you actually did the exam and put them here on Discord. Just brag about it. Show everybody that you practiced and what you've got. So that's what I want from this week. Everybody's supposed to be already completed, supposed to have already completed the first 2 homework assignments. So those should already be done. If you haven't finished them, it's really important you ask for help so we can help you finish those. You're supposed to have 20 points. And this week, it would be good if everybody started getting like between 8 and 10 points in their practices, because we're supposed to know how to do the first 12 questions. It's understandable if you make a couple of mistakes the first time. And then next week, we're going to speed through questions 1 to 12. So I'm just going to make the calculations. I'm not going to explain the why. The why was this week. Next week is just a repass. And we're going to concentrate on questions 13 to 20 so that we can actually get 20 points next week. So that would be all for the stream today. I'm going to quit on Twitch now. I'm going to give you guys the link. Remember, if you need to do this all over again, you can come at noon. We're doing this on Spanish again at noon sharp. And I'll be exporting this to YouTube as well. In like 1 minute, I'm going to give you the Twitch link on the Discord channel. Any questions? Type on the channel, please.